2020 season marches towards the end of the year, and SAAR Education has left no stone unturned and continues to bring to you more informative workshops throughout the year to enhance your teaching and learning skills. As we believe in a continuous professional development, not just every year, but every month, every day, and every minute. So don't miss any chance to learn. All I want to say is, don't miss our workshops. We are pleased to welcome the creator of Fitzroy Reader, Faye Berryman, from Fitzroy School, Australia. She is the co-founder of Fitzroy Community School in Australia. She's a principal author of the Fitzroy Readers and pioneering teacher of the Fitzroy Method. She would tell us about the Fitzroy Method of synthetic phonics for the development of literacy in English language. And without much delay, I turn the time to Faye Berryman. Over to you, Faye, please.
Well, thank you very much, Sarah, and thank you very much. I'm delighted to be here and to be speaking to an audience I assume is mainly in India, a country I haven't been to yet, but all my children have and speak so warmly. In fact, one of my daughters, Catherine, worked in a school in Delhi for several months. And so I've heard a lot about India, but I haven't been here yet. Well, the title of my talk tonight is From A to Extraordinary. And I just want to look at that a tiny bit, because when you think, we start very simply, first letter of the alphabet, A, and if we follow very carefully, or follow the Fitzroy method anyway very carefully, we can achieve extraordinary results, I believe. That has been the finding here in Australia and around the world too. And so the title I take very seriously. In fact, when you think about it, and I think as teachers and parents, this is what we need to get across. We have 26 letters and that's all we have. And by using them effectively, we have access, I think, to the language with the biggest vocabulary in the world. That is quite amazing. And for example, I often say to my children, I show them a book like this, great big book like this, and I say to them, and how many letters do you think we have in this book? How many different letters do we use? And they say something like, oh, 1 million, 1 trillion, and so on and so forth. I say, no, just 26. Now that is extraordinary. And that's what I want to hopefully share with you tonight and have you to understand that. And if we as teachers and parents can get that magic across, I think we've done very well. Now, so we are talking about the Fitzroy Readers, and I am saying they are very simple to use, of course, which is what we want, I suppose, the most simple, but we cannot sacrifice effectiveness for simplicity. And this is what we have. Now, why am I saying they're simple and they are effective? I'm saying that because we believe they are written with an understanding of the child brain development. And I'll come back to that in a little while. They're simple because the method remains the same from the very simplest book, which I'll talk about later, to the most advanced. The reading books and the workbooks are color coordinated, and again, I will show you that in a little while. They give the child a feeling of success, and this is absolutely crucial if you want a child to keep going. They need to have this feeling of success, and this is because we have a progression in color and also in numbering. And let me say, the entire method is constantly classroom tested. In fact, we're working towards new editions, and I have to say that even twice last week in class, I thought, no, I believe that could be said slightly better. So we're constantly, right from day one of the Fitzroy Readers, we have worked with children in the classroom. And so I can perfectly honestly say they are effective. Now, what I intend to do tonight is give you hopefully an understanding of our background thinking, which we call the philosophy, of the Fitzroy Method for learning to read and write. Now, obviously, you're listening to me, so when we speak, we make sounds. Hearing sounds comes before writing the sounds, and I think this is important to understand too. You are listening to me, but you're not writing anything, so hearing the sounds comes first. English has an alphabet of 26 letters, and it's these 26 written symbols that we use to write the sounds that we speak. Now, when you're speaking to little children, you can say, yes, we use these letters to put our talking down on the paper, and they like that idea. We have 44 spoken sounds in English. So now this is the fascinating thing. We're saying we have 26 letters and 44 spoken sounds. We'll talk about the ingenious way the alphabet solved that. We use one letter for the basic sounds of the alphabet, and we use 2 or more letters for the extra sounds, really, the shortfall between 26 and 44. So we can call them the extra sounds. And the word typically used for these extra sounds is digraph. So learning to read simply means learning which sounds to speak for the letters we see. I'll read that again. Learning to read means learning which sounds to speak for the letters we see, and learning to write means learning which letters to write for the sounds we speak. It's simple as that. And by convention in English, and it is simply convention, we read from left to right. Sometimes I laughingly say to people I'm presenting to or the parents in our school, well, that's all we need to know, really. If you take that in, I don't think I need to say anything more, but I am going to say some more. Okay, so how do we go about this proving the claim that I've made that we're simple and very effective? So the Fitzroy Method, which we call the method of the Fitzroy readers and its related teaching materials, presents the alphabetic principles of English in a logical sequence. The logic is very, very tight. Philip O'Carroll, my husband and colleague, was a lecturer in logic, and so we think our system is perfectly logical. It proceeds in finely graded steps, which I will explain later. Nothing is a surprise, and it's finely graded. Now, here is, I would say, our biggest difference, because you might say, well, you know, there's all these methods claiming to be wonderful, but are they all the same? Well, ours starts teaching the basic sounds of the letters, and the next 2 words are important. Starts with teaching the basic sounds of the letters as required, and I'll come back to that later. That we think is crucial. It introduces the digraphs gradually and logically. It progresses then to more advanced spelling rules, integrates special words, some people call them sight words or difficult words, special words throughout the program, covers all essential grammar, provides exercise for writing skills of a variety of different text types, and guarantees literary excellence. So, the Fitzroy readers are a phonic method. Phonic. Let's go to the bottom of the screen here first, and we'll work up backwards. What is phonics? Phonics simply means, it's a Greek word meaning sound. So anything obviously talking about sound, we're going to use sound. We'll go upwards. The alphabet is a sound code. Now, this is also very important. I mean, we can have color codes. We're driving along in a car. The street lights go red, we stop. They go green, we go. That's a color code. Well, the alphabet is a sound code, and each letter of the alphabet stands for a particular speech sound. Now, here is fascinating, the top dot point. Phonics systems use the alphabet. Okay, now take that in. Phonic system use the alphabet. Any language that uses an alphabet is a phonic language. Now, the fascinating thing about this is, I suppose, the other big method that for many years took priority over phonics was called whole language, or whole word, some people called it. Now, that's fascinating because it simply disregarded the sounds made by the alphabet, which was funny because the alphabet is a sound code, and because of the alphabet, societies were able to progress. And so we, of course, believe that you simply must use a phonic method. Okay, so going to where I said before, there are 26 symbols, the 26 letters of the alphabet, but there are 44 spoken sounds. So what is the solution? We have to make up a shortfall, don't we? Well, the shortfall is made up by the English, what we call digraphs, where, now this is also important. I'm not talking about blends where we might go op, stop. I'm not talking about blends. I'm talking about two or more letters together, which represent a sound different from the basic sounds of the single letters sounded together. Now, this is interesting also. I'm renowned in class for saying to the class, now this is interesting. They say to me, you find everything interesting. And I say, yes, I do. It's fascinating. And it is fascinating. Anyway, for example, there are about 60 common digraphs. And you might, if you're good at maths, you might think, why on earth, if we're talking about 44 sounds, are we going to say, and there's a shortfall there of, is it 18? 18, yes, 18. Why ever then have we got 60 digraphs? Well, of course, that is because there was no World Wide Web. There was no telephone, there were no aeroplanes. You were lucky if you had a horse. And so language would develop in different places, but there wasn't much communication between them. And when Samuel Johnson came to write the first dictionary, he had different groups working on it, and they came up with different ideas. For example, you might think, okay, let's do two E's for an E sound, but then another group would say, let's do EA. And they didn't really worry too much before the dictionary was written, as long as you could understand. Once the dictionary was written, we were stuck with what was called official spelling, and there were variations for various sounds. And that's why instead of having just 18, we have 60. So a digraph, let's look at, for example, the AR. Now that is not a, no, that is R. And the CH is not k, no, it is ch, and so on. And so a digraph is two or more letters together which represent a different sound from the basic sounds together. Now, for a long time, and I think whole word or whole language carried the day because this wasn't thought through very carefully. If you look at a very, very, very simple sentence like the cat was on the mat, you might look at that and you think, well, there's 6 words and goodness gracious me, 3 of them are not phonic. So what on earth is the use of saying use a phonic system? However, let us look, there's the is repeated twice and there's a was. Okay. According to linguists, if we use the basic sounds and the digraphs and we add 50 most common, what we call special words, you've covered, well, I think it's about 95% of the language, but my colleague Philip says, oh no, we better be very conservative, so we'll say 90 to 95. But anyway, so round about there, with just 50 words, and I've talked about two of them already, the and the was. They're two of the obviously very common special words. Phonics, I mean, if you're in education, you know the terminology keeps changing. But anyway, phonics is now called systematic synthetic phonics, but it was always just called phonics. But anyway, that's its new name, and we'll call it systematic synthetic phonics. There's nothing wrong with that. Anyway, and we would say that phonics teaching is not true phonics unless taught systematically. Now, have a look at this. Going back 19 years, it was understood that phonics was the way to go. It's taken 19 years, really, and it hasn't totally won the literacy wars yet, but it's taken 19 years to have the stronghold. Let's read this. What was called incidental phonics. You know, sometimes you do a bit of this and a bit of that. Many institutions march under the banner of balanced instructions. Now, many schools say, oh yes, but we're doing balance. We're doing a mixture of whole word and a mixture of phonics. Anyway, so many institutions march under the banner of balanced instruction, but in fact, they continue to push flawed whole language methods at the expense of phonics. Now, how about this one? This is the educational equivalent of treating polio with aspirin. We would never stand for such malpractice in medicine, and we should not tolerate it in education. Very, very strong words. And what I'm saying is they were written in the Wall Street Journal 19 years ago. So what I'm saying now is not a new thing. We started writing our method, let me say, in 1976. That's a long time ago, isn't it? That's 43 years ago. You might have seen this graph before. It was written by Nancy Young. She, from her research, and it was copyright to Nancy Young in 2012. From her research, she worked out that 5% of learners seem just effortlessly to read without any particular instruction at all. What I think is happening, what I think has worked out, because I've seen it too several times, is that I believe that these children have an expertise in patterns, and they can quickly work out for themselves without any instruction the patterns that go behind the English language. And it is a language of patterns. It certainly is, like all the AR, all the AY, all the ER. It's a thing of patterns. And some children do seem to pick that up automatically, no doubt about it. Then another 35% of children pick it up, yes, but just with a little bit of a hint, and they pick it up. This is where the problem lies, though. 40 to 50%, and then another 10 to 15% really can't do much if we don't give them explicit, systematic teaching. And that is a tragedy, and that is what we have. I think all countries of the world have struck that. Sometimes when I have a longer presentation, I give a cutting from France, which says they call whole word global, méthode globale. And for a while, they brought in a lot of, I see, of course, people are interested in what works best. Of course they are. And I think this is where whole word got a strong foothold. But if, unfortunately, the sadness was there were a lot of children falling by the wayside, like 60, 65%. And so then the French government, which is very centralized, said, okay, we've got to get all whole word books off the shelf and bring back phonics in. And so a lot of countries, just about all countries with an alphabet did try whole word, but unfortunately, there were so many casualties. Now, so phonics, Greek sounding. Sounding words sound out according to phonic rules. That's fairly straightforward, isn't it? Sounding words sound out according to phonic rules. Sometimes they're sounded using basic sounds only, like k, at, cat, or dog. Sometimes, though, they use the combination of basic sound and digraphs. So we might have, for example, or k, fork. And sometimes, interestingly to me, and I'm sure to you, we use just digraphs. Look at e-ch or a-ch. So it doesn't really matter. They're still phonic. They're still following the basic phonic rules. If you remember way back at the beginning of, well, it's not so way back, is it? But at the beginning of this presentation, I said that the sound preceded the writing. I start every lesson with what I call good ears games. I'll give you an example of this. Good ears, we're training children to listen to the sounds. Many teachers say, oh, my children can't put them together to make the sounds. And let me say, not all children pick it up as quickly. Not all children pick it up as quickly. This is why I'm speaking to teachers and parents here. It is crucial just to keep going. Every day start with what we call the good ears games. And you can say to them, of course, you need good eyes to be able to read. However, to be very good, you need good ears. So let's do some good ears. So I will say, I'm going to say a word slowly. You tell me what it is. I might say, and then most of them, let me say, will get run and some of them don't. And or op, hop, or skip. What you find once you've done it a few times with them and they become much more fluent, they say, oh, give me a hard one, give me a hard one, give me a hard one. And so you can say something like, oh, okay, and they actually get very good. A little girl, she must be 5, said to me the other day, I want a particularly hard one. Oh, this was in number ears. I'll talk about that in a moment. But anyway, so that's the idea. Always have good ears because we need to train the children to listen to the sound. Now, a variation of good ears is number ears. So here you say a word just as it is, like jog, and you say to the children, okay, how many sounds in jog? Now, normally, if you've played good ears in its original form, they're quite good at that. But then you might say, okay, try this one, jump. You'll often get 3 for that. And so you say, okay, tell me what it is. And they'll go something like, and you say, jump. Oh, no, and you're training them all the time to listen. And this is what I was going to say in class, because I'm still teaching and I teach right through all primary. And a little girl, she was 5, she said, I want a particularly hard one. And I said, oh, okay, how many sounds in, I wonder who can get this one, how many sounds in trumpet? And she looked a little bit startled, thought for a minute and said 7. Now that is quite extraordinary. And see the tr, the tr, the tr, you have to get them to listen to that a lot. And you can put those two a little bit close like that, just to show them that they come very closely. And she was so thrilled with her 7 and being correct. Another game that we like to play, and when I'm talking about these games, I'll show you a little bit later, there's a a teacher's guide. Someone said to me last week, oh, teacher's guide, is that a parent's guide too? And of course I said, of course it's a parent guide too, because obviously parents are the very first teachers, aren't they? So yes, it's called teachers, but it's for parents too. So you can pretend, well, I pretend I've come from another planet, you see, and I've arrived on Earth. So I come from the planet Mars. I'm a Martian, and I'm very proud. And I say, oh yes, I can spell cat. And I say, dog, and they hopefully look at you and they say, that's not cat. And you say, oh, I think it is. I think it is dog. And they say, no, it can't be cat because it's dog. Therefore, it's dog. And you play around like that. You know, well, I said, okay. Oh, really? Yeah, you're quite right. Okay. Well, I've learned rat. Don't like rats, but I've learned about them anyway. It's pig, and of course they say, it's not. That's pig. And I say, no. They say, no, but it's pig. So how can it be rat? It's pig. So getting them to understand that a word is a word because of the sounds in it. Very important to establish that idea. Now, recycling, this is, I mean, these days, I'm sure it's true in India too. We're always talking about, you know, recycling, you know, having our glass and our cardboard here and our general rubbish here, you know, this sort of plastics here. And this is the children are fascinated to know that just by recycling our 26 letters, we can make, well, 600,000 plus words. Like, this is what I'm saying, like a book like this only has 26 different letters in it. Now, you see, that is, you can say to the children, well, welcome to Wonderland. Welcome, if you like magic, nothing is more magical than this. So recycling is another very, very important idea for children. So I'll just have a sip if you don't mind. My lovely daughter-in-law, office manager, arrived and she has brought me this. So thank you very much, Amy, that's beautiful. Okay, so we call what many people call sight words, or many people call difficult words, or many people call tricky words. We don't call them that. We give them a positive loading. We call them special words. Now, of course, this does make sense because they're special cases of spelling. Well, they do not sound out as they should when we apply our phonic rules to them. However, and you can also say to the children, oh, you'd better be specially awake here because, you know, it's not sounding out as you think it might. Anyway, there are usually phonic clues though. For example, go starts with g, obviously. And also the vowels, sometimes the vowels, if they don't work with their sound, if you try them out with their name, you'll find that that works. And was looks like the O, should be an O, but it's an A. Now, I play a lovely game with this because see here, the sound exceptions often come from the vowels. So I'll often write the vowels on the board and I'll say, oh, watch out for these chappies. They are the troublemakers. If anything's going to make trouble, it's probably these. And they love that. And they quickly learn about the special words. If you take a fun and an interesting approach, as I said before, the method, they're color coordinated. So if you are following, say, the first set of reading books, the orange, then you would be using an orange workbook. And then if you go on to green, the green set, you'd use a green workbook. The workbooks, I'm sorry about this, they're A3, no, A4, and so they're bigger than the reading books themselves. But
yeah,
you can
A4.
see, pardon?
A4.
Yeah, Yeah, A4. I'm sorry, yes, A4. I'm obviously not a printer, am I? Okay, so there we go. And we have, this is also in our resource book, which I'll show you a slide of that soon, our teachers or parent guide. This is our master list. Now, if you look at the, say the first 5 books, and the 1 to 5 and 1x to 5x, you'll see that they cover what is called the short vowels, like a, e, o, a. That was not all in alphabetical order, but that doesn't matter. We need, once you have the a, e, o, a, e, I, o, u, you can make lots of little words. And then it shows you also where our special words, because remember we're trying to build up our 50 special words. You can see that by book 5, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, we've got 5 already, and we're only going to go for 50, and then more, we bring in more and more as we go. So it's also very easy to see what is being introduced. And so we go right through here to book 60. Now, book 60 is actually about the 90th book now, because when I first wrote these in 1976, I wrote 1 to 10, 11 to 20, 21 to 30, but parents and teachers said, look, we'd like more at the beginning level, because establishing what the children are doing is important. So that is why we added in the X's, and I'll talk about the X's in a little while, in a little more detail. Here is our teacher's guide. It has the underlying philosophy, it has the games, it has obviously the list of the 50 special words, it has the rules of grammar, has the master list, it has stories that I like to highlight the sounds as I'm teaching them. So and also, you know, information about creative writing, persuasive writing, and yeah, so it's a very good resource to have. If you remember, I said where we are different, we teach what we need to know to read our first book. Now, to read our first book, interestingly, we only need 13 of our 26 alphabet sounds. We don't need any of the digraphs. We don't need the whole 26. That's all we need. And we can look at them in the alphabet book. I'll speak in more detail about this. We also have a sing-along that I like to use. I find that different pathways into the brain and memory are good. And so if you're singing, like say the A one, you might go apple, 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 and they have, when you open up the little cards, they'll have an apple and an axe and an arrow and an ant. Like iconic words that begin with the at sound, and we'll sing for all of them. In the teacher's guide, there are model lessons. Now, here is one of the letters we have to learn to read. The first book is the letter T. Okay, so this would be a model lesson for T. But the thing is, you can use it for whatever letter you like, because the method does remain the same. Just simply at the beginning, it tells you what you need to bring into the class. And we revise the letter sounds that we've already learned, obviously, and we play our good ears games. Now, we also play good breaks game. That is, this good breaks, I think, is the game they love most. A teacher knows what letter they're going to teach, but the children don't know what letter they're going to teach. So what you do is you sing the alphabet. Now, you have to also ensure that the children realize that when they're singing the alphabet, they're singing the names of the letters. They're not singing the sounds. And so what I sometimes do is if I'll sing like the names in the class. I'll go, Jenny, Peter, Tom, and Jack. Oh, I say, oh, no, I'm not supposed to be singing your names, am I? I'm supposed to be singing the names of the letters. So just making sure they know that we're talking about names at this point. And so you'll sing the alphabet song through, and then you'll say, get your breaks ready. What happens if, I said, who came to school on a bike this morning, or who came in a car? Oh, did you have to stop at any point? Yes. Oh, what did you do? I put our brakes on. What would have happened if you hadn't? You crashed. Well, so you don't want to crash. So in my mind, for example, I know I'm going to teach the letter T. Okay, so we go faster this time, and they have to, as I point to the letter, they have to watch. And when I stop at the letter T, they have to be alert enough not to go on is to you, oh, and sometimes they do, oh dear, we had a crash, Now, why do I do that? Simply to get focus. If we're talking about little children, and anyone who's taught little children would know very well, you can think you've given the best lesson in the world, but they've been looking out the window, or goodness knows where they've been looking. But anyway, so getting them to focus. So, okay, so we're doing the letter T, and then we talk about, let me think of some words that begin with the letter T and work out what sound it makes. I sometimes bring a teapot in, a teapot, or what else? Or a picture of a tree, or a picture of a tiger, and all of this. And so then you can go, okay, T-E, or tiger, or T-re, and you say, okay, so what sound do you think the letter T makes? And usually they can work out you're talking about it too. So then if English is not a first language, we try to use just iconic, very basic sounds like a tap, or a tent, or a teapot, or a tree. Sometimes you do need to teach that vocabulary, and then you teach them to write the letter. Something else I do, but I didn't write in the lesson plan, is, remember we're teaching little children, and I've sometimes given a lesson, I think I've given a brilliant lesson. Maybe I've talked about the letter T making the sound T, and and then you will say to a little child at the end, so what sound does the letter T make? And they go, or something like that. So we're always remembering they're little. So I like to use a memory link. For example, if I'm doing the letter T, I might do the little song like, I'm a little teapot, short and stout. Here is my handle, here is a spout, and even bring a teapot in and do some actions. But get them to love something so that they'll create a memory link. So there we go, and then you practice writing it. And of course, that particular lesson can be adjusted for whatever lesson you want to. Now, of course, if I'm saying that we're just going to teach 13 sounds, I'm looking at my watch because I might have to hurry up a bit. I like them to think that they're creative writers right from the start. So the moment I have, say, two sounds, say I've got the I and the T, okay. Oh, it, now that's an interesting word, isn't it? And you can say, oh, could you give me it, please? Or could you give me it? And it can be all sorts of things. And then you say, well, what do you think it is? And this was Sterling. Sterling thought that it was a giraffe. Now, of course, his giraffe has 10 legs, but never mind about that. He was 4, I think. 10 legs, and it has a very long neck, as you can see, and it's eating that tree. But he thinks he thought that was beautiful. So it is a giraffe, it is eating leaves, and it has a very long neck. Okay, so here we have third day at school, and we have a creative writer. The teacher writes that, and of course, they just think they're wonderful, because really, it's going to be a little while before they can write a wonderful story themselves. And what am I doing here? I'm getting them to realize that when you write, it is not really different from speech, or you can use your imagination. Some children, once they pick up a pen, they think, oh, there must be proper things I am to say. But no. We want to have them develop creativity right from the start. And this is wonderful. They've only been at school, and perhaps the next day or the day after, you might have taught them the letter F. Okay, so, and this is wonderful, handling hypotheticals. We think the world is a certain way, but what if it was something else? Another way. And so this was Charlotte, and she was about 4, charming too, because she ran out of space. You see, she's got the shot, so the E just went up above, but that's how they are. But anyway, what she came up with was, if ice creams had eyes, what would the world be like then? So here they are with only a few letters, believing that they are creative writers, and that's wonderful. That's the great thing about phonics. They don't need many sounds, but they can still feel empowered. I'm always on about empowering them, making them feel they can. Okay, so remember we've got 13 letters to learn, and we have a little bit of the theory. Now, in some languages, and they don't have what we call an indefinite or a definite article, the word a or the word the. So here is getting them used to the word a. Now, I'm calling some people the indefinite article, the single letter a. Depending on where you grow up, you will pronounce it differently. Now, a lot of people call it up. Dangerous, 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 dangerous. Because if they think it's up, they're going to spell sun in the sky, S-A-N. Or they're going to spell lunch, lanch, L-A-N, because the word a is the most common word in English. So if they think it's up, you are in trouble. So we labor it a little bit and we call it a. Later on, they simply adjust to the way English is spoken in their particular setting. However, call it a to start with, and that avoids, no one has joined our school after, later than prep, who has not made that mistake. And I was looking at something that came out of China the other day, advertising something, and they spelled yummy, because of that very basic mistake. So be careful there. I'm very fussy about that. And then the next page is teaching them that you put sounds together to make words. So you've got sort of math there, haven't you? O and n, and you get on. And then again, what are we doing here? We're using the word a, but we're showing them that in English you read left to right, and you've got spaces between words, and all you have to know is the word a and the word on, and you can write your little set. We're working out the beginning of sentences. A cat on a table, and then they draw it. And the same here with in, it and n, a girl in a pool, a girl in a pool, or a car at a table. So the beginning of reading, because we're soon to start to reading, oh, and here's a great word, and. I tell them, most powerful word, you can join anything. You can join the moon to a toe if you want to, the moon and a toe, wonderful. And little children love games like that. So with the first readers, we simply sound out, all of the words just simply sound out. We don't have to guess. Guessing becomes dangerous habit. Don't guess. And once you've sounded the word out, repeat as whole words. And I always say, keep your finger under the word, because otherwise, as I say, if they're tiny tots, goodness knows where they'll be looking. System is easy to use. The back of each book tells us exactly what we're doing. Here we're looking at the vowel A, making the sound A as in cat, and we're looking at the special word which for what I think are very sensible reasons, I'm calling it A. a good way to teach that, and what I do, how I teach it, is, oh, look at that. The letter A does just what it should, makes it sound at when it's with friends. We always behave well when we're with our friends. So look at that. The at has two friends, a k and a t, and it's behaving properly. But when it's by itself, remember I said, look out for the vowels. It refuses to say at, and it calls itself its name. Now, we go to our workbooks before we attempt to read. A teacher or a parent can look at the back of the reader to see just what information you need to read, and then you go to the A and the B sheets of the word skills, called word skills. Now remember, and this is where we are excellent, we teach what they need to know, and then we practice what they need to know, because a child wee brain does not have the power of abstraction. They're very, very concrete. So a whole lot of abstraction is not good for them. Teach them as little as you need and get them going. So that's what we do, very step by step. So here we've got the cat, k, at. So go through, make sure they know what the vocab is. So that's an English cricket bat, which I'm sure in India you know very well about, as we do in Australia too. So this is being developed now for the United States, but we've got to have a very different sort of a bat, but that's okay. So putting in the at, and then remember our special word A. So you've got A space and can, like a can of drink. So the A and the B sheets teach what you're going to need to read, and what you're going to need to read, you read with more fluency if you've done the A and the B sheets. And here we go. So our first story is A, at cat, a fat cat, at cat, a fat cat. And then because of time, I'll whiz through this, but you can see, you can read a mat, etc., etc. Charming, charming illustrations. And then the last page they love, a big pile up, a rat on a at bat on a cat eaten in a hat on a mat. So a rat on a bat on a cat in a hat on a mat. Okay, and then more practice of the vocab we've used, because I don't know about you, I'm talking about little children. They need to practice what you've given them, or they forget, but adults do too. I shouldn't just say children can learn. If you're learning a foreign language, if you don't practice it, you won't remember. And then also filling in looking at the picture and writing the word. Another fun thing, some children love these word finds, and then that's on your left, and then the chasey game following the word. This is all consolidating the vocabulary that we've used. Then there's a getting them to think beyond the text. If we've got 13 letters, 13 sounds, there's obviously not going to be the greatest cat story in the world, although they think it's great because they can read it. But would a cat and a rat normally sit together? What do you think would happen? And getting them to think beyond the text, a scanning exercise, and then a literal comprehension, and then a drawing exercise and labeling. And then we return to our alphabet for 4 more sounds. That's all we need for the next book. And they can read. Oh, I can read a book. I can read another book. Getting this success. So the next one is a big pig, and it's looking at it. Obviously, no only the it sound, which we've done really when we did the cat. So, and notice how the text is always supporting what we're learning. So we're doing the it, and one of our new sounds is the g here. On this page, we're going to now start some special words. So the special words for reader 3 are the and the of. So how I teach them comes in there. The vowel, the letter U making the sound as in bug. You can see the and the of. This is the information on the back of this book is the only new information you need to read this book. Everything else you've done before. And that's why it's so simple. And the text always supports what it is you are wanting to teach the child. So all the time, they begin to trust. You say, okay, this is all we have to know for this book, and you learn that, and then you can read. So reading with fluency, success, success, success. The vowel O making the sound O. Again, you can see that the text is supporting here. We've got 2 more of our 50 special words coming in. The vowel E now, as in hen, and you can see it there. The X series doesn't bring in new material. If you look at the as in dot, you can see that the green is also the same, but where the dot book only had 3 sounds in each word. Now you can see we've got 4, or even in the word 7, 5. So it's sort of a lateral extension. Here, each book brings in a different digraph, and then a way to teach the digraphs. Here is a lesson. I call it cooking with letters. Once you put flour, sugar, butter, milk, and eggs in a cake, and they're cooked, you can't get them out. So if you cook an O and an O together, it's no longer O and O, it's oo. And so cooking with letters there. Here, just showing you how English works, like birthday, birthday. And that's really what English is about. The not so special words is interesting. You see in reader 7 up there, I'm saying that 2 is a special word, but you might say, but it's not special because 2 O's makes an oo sound. Well, it does, but we're calling it special because we haven't devoted a reader to it. But now by book 9, which is underneath, you see that now we're devoting a book to it. And so it will no longer be called special. And here, if you go down, you can see my list as a special word there, you see, but then reader 13 has the letter Y on the end of words, making an I sound. A Y is called a substitute vowel on the end of words. English words don't end in I. I mean, spaghetti, but that's not English, you know. So the I is substituted by the Y, and many systems call it a substitute vowel. Then later special words, going through meticulously any words in the vocab, why are they spelt that way? Let's just have a look up the top, have a look at service. This is what I do. So the S makes its basic sound. I get the children to explain, to say, oh, this okay, that's a normal digraph. And you can note other words that make this sound, like another can be spelt IR, and then the V basic sound. The I makes its basic sound, but why is it spelled CE? Well, it's C on the end, and you get them to recite the rule that when E follows the C doesn't sound K anymore, but S. So with every word, getting them to articulate the rules of English. Now, I'm showing you now the extent to which, starting with a little book with 13 letters, here we're now getting into quite sophisticated English. We're looking at CH no longer saying ch, but k, with words coming in from the Greek. So you see how the text still supports what we're saying. The poem had an extraordinary effect on Nicholas. Long after the teacher had finished, Nicholas had anchored the CH there to his chair, the poem echoing the CH there with K. So the system remains the same right through. I said that we teach all these things. We do tenses, parts of speech, punctuation, advanced comprehension, practical English usage. That means like letter writing, invitation writing, all of that, and written expression. grammar mastery, all the different vocab that we use, comparisons, superlatives, turns of phrase, our possessive apostrophes, I told a minute ago. It's so easy, actually, but it does cause confusion. But anyway, we've got a great lesson here in our word skills on possessive apostrophes, quoted speech, unquoted speech. All this discussion, remember we said in book 1, would a cat and a rat sit together? But now look, do the expectations of friends help or hinder you when you're facing a challenge? Getting them to think philosophically. So we have every book, every reading book has a sentence, a subject for discussion or several, where you're getting them to think beyond the text to the real world. Then we have subjects to write about. That's usually theme related to the reading book itself, character writing, practical English, writing a letter to apologize. The G sheets are wonderful, I think. Again, we've got their subjects for discussion, but instead of have a look at Common English Usage number 2, Jeremy jumped out of his skin. Now, any course in creative writing will tell you you have to show rather than tell. So, okay, write 3 other sentences showing that someone is frightened. So, Tom turned pale. Okay, literal. Or he shook like a leaf, figurative, and getting them to try both. So that is very important. And then the practical English, you're writing a letter, teaching them letter writing. Here is also using the skills you've learned for use in the real world. It was an environmental book, and here is a poster. That's one of the G sheets. So getting them confident to use what they've learned to do things in the real world. Okay, I went through the end because I've got 5 minutes to go, but anyway, I'll look at the summary. So what do? The Fitzroy readers and the related teaching materials present the alphabetic principles of English in a logical sequence. Indeed, they do. They proceed in finely graded teaching steps, as I explained, no surprises. Everything you're going to need has been covered in a book before, or what's on the back of the next book. We proceed in finely graded teaching steps, yeah. We start teaching the basic sounds of the letters as required, not a lot of abstraction. No, 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 not for tiny tots, doesn't work. Start with the letters as required, and we practice them till they're consolidated. And you can see by the end, you've achieved wonders. We introduce the digraphs, we progress to more advanced spelling rules, that lesson plan there. We having them articulate all the time. What are the rules? Why is a word spelt that way? Explain to me. We integrate the special words throughout the program, and 50, some people say 60, but certainly 50 definite ones. We teach all the essential grammar. We provide exercises for the writing skills of different text types, and we do guarantee literary excellence. And we are now creating, just to give you an idea of how we actually teach a lesson, this is the very beginning for us on Vimeo. We've only got about 25 lessons up yet, but we will be gradually building more, because as they say, a picture is worth 1,000 words. And so we're trying to get up models of the different lessons. One of our very key teachers, Nick, and I, and there is a complementary explanation of the method there. Of course, you'll need to come back to SAAR to buy the materials, but this should help. And if you just keep watching it, we will be putting more and more up. And this was the book we wrote about the school, which also has my thinking because I wasn't hardline about whether you taught phonics or what you taught. So I sat with the children right from the start and worked out how they most quickly learned to read and write back fluently and accurately. And so that all comes into that book too. Okay, so I think, yes. So, and we do wish you joy with English language, a magnificent language. You know, there's all sorts of quibbles about the English in India, I know, but I think one thing is language and cricket. And I think everyone thinks that they're great bonuses. And not only are there great Indian writers, I love like Digraphs, Seth, and think I'm a great devotee of many of your wonderful Indian writers. But you know, people like Joseph Conrad, who I think was Polish, he wrote in English because of such an expressive language. And so, you know, we do wish you joy with English language. And I'm sorry I've run out of time. Maybe I'll come back another day and answer all any questions that have arisen, but I wanted to go through so you'd know just how we are slightly different. I mean, all the good systems teach all the sounds, ultimately the 44 sounds, but I think where we vary is how we go about it. Okay, so that's, I can.
All right. Thank you, Faye. Thank you so much. I think you're looking for me.
I'll just see if I can get out of this share now. Here we are.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. Thank you so much. It was wonderful. Fitzroy readers are one of the best systems I know of. Even if you don't thoroughly know the system, you will still get the results. It's fantastic. If you allow me, can I ask you one or two questions? I know we're running short of time, but
certainly.
I have an interesting question. Somebody just asked how to read the word dinosaur. I thought I'd put it up to you.
Yeah, well,
to phonics, I mean.
Of course, so yeah, there are rules for that. Now, at the end of a syllable, like die, for example, die. At the end of a syllable, a vowel can simply say its name. Like think of go or so or be or he, belong. So so that's basically, so it's not dinosaur. It's, if you break the word into syllables, you will find it makes much more sense. And the saw, of course, is one of the, on the end, is one of the AU, because or can be OR, AW, or AU. And so although these patterns are covered in the Fitzroy readers, so dine, o, saw, and see dine, no, that's, again, depending on the age of the child, they don't have to be, I would say about, you know, in the second year at school where I'm doing a lot on syllables, you can teach them that one, that at the end of a syllable, the vowel has its name sound, or you can call it long sound. But with little children, it's better to call its name because they can't even tell the difference between short and long, you know. So what we've learned is we try to eliminate a lot of the jargon. That's dinosaur.
Oh, thank you. That is interesting. We need to catch up on syllables now. And for information for everyone, SAAR is uploading videos. You know, so very soon we're going to upload a video on syllabification also. And I hope that might help everyone. Another question that I have is how to teach phonics to little elder children, say grade 3 or 4.
Would you mind repeating that? How to teach?
How do we teach phonics to little elder children, like say if they're in grade 3 or grade 4? How do we teach phonics to them?
Does the question mean that they've never done it before, but they're now starting? Well, obviously, I went when a couple of years ago, I was invited to Western Australia, which is on the other side of Australia from where I am, to a high security jail where they were using. I was a little bit anxious. They were mainly, I'm sorry to say, Aboriginal children. They were 14, 15, 16, 17, and they had our system working wonderfully. And I said to the teachers there, do they worry about it being sort of babyish, like, you know, a fat cat or something? And the teacher said, no, they are just so delighted to understand how English works. And in fact, many of them came up to me and said, now we understand how English works. So I think if you're starting in year 3 or 4 and they've never done it before, you can simply say, because you haven't done it, we're going to go back to the beginning. I mean, you might not do the 1 to 10. You might start 1x to 10x, which is slightly more sophisticated. Going to start there because we want you to understand and build up. We'll go much more quickly than if you were tiny tots, but we will go through just to make sure. And if you can, and sometimes if they are having a learning difficulty, you can often say, well, you know, I don't know whether, could be the teacher didn't teach you properly, or maybe you were looking out the window at the wrong time. But for whatever reason, we need just to go over this. So don't make them feel silly, but show them why it is a sensible thing to just go back over. And there are in the their teacher's guide, there are entrance level tests, so that you can, a teacher, say year 3 or 4, can go through there and think, oh yes, well, if they know that, well, then I'll start at the next level. So that's also a very good thing, that the entrance levels are in the teacher's guide.
Thank you so much. I mean, the teacher's guide is available with at our website, which is www.saareducation.com. And the teacher's guide, I think, is the Bible to all your Fitzroy method. Every time I read that book, I unfold a new, a truth about it. It's really lovely. And I think everybody should, read it thoroughly, and you really enjoy it. I enjoyed it a lot, actually.
Oh, that's
so,
nice. Yeah.
So thank you so much for presenting the Fitzroy method, which deals so effectively with the base blocks of reading. Actually, it's really wonderful. And all our the readers are all available at our website. Please log on to, and you can, I mean, the reading tests are wonderful, so that you can actually analyze at what level your reader is, and you can choose the reader and hand over the reader to them, and there'll be many success stories for reading, actually. So where you